here's the thing. My product owner came to me and told me, Gilles, I would like our application to check that all the postal code we entered are in France. Then he left on holidays and the tester as well. So I'm thinking, how can I do this? We have this best practice in our application to write scenarios to make sure that our development will be driven by tests. If I cannot do it with my product owner and my testers, maybe I can do it with ChatGPT, right? So here's the code. I have a piece of code here written in Node.js in my application folder, is valid France postal code. So this function is going to test if the postal code is valid, and right now it's returning false. It will export it, and then I can write my scenarios. So here is a feature. I need to write all the scenarios according to this feature, and also I will need to write the test runner. The test runner will import my function, and then we'll do something with the steps that exist in Gherkin. If you are not familiar with Gherkin, you will see how it works in the examples. So I thought ChatGPT maybe can do the trick. Maybe the first thing I should ask ChatGPT is, what are the rules for French postal code? So I'm asking it, and it answers me with basically 3 rules about the first digit, then the third digit, and what about the fourth and fifth digit. Then it's telling me that it should go from 1 to 95, and that it includes also France and overseas department. Okay, right, I have my code. So now I need to generate a Gherkin file. For the Gherkin, I am asking just ChatGPT, can you generate it? And it does both the feature part and the scenario part. So, it's given when you have something in an input, when you perform an action, then you expect a result. That's how the tests are written. For example, if the postal code is in Paris first district, then the postal code is valid. When I try to validate, the postal code, then it is valid. Here's another example where it's not valid, when it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is not a valid code, so it should be invalid. I say, cool, but you gave me much more rules, so maybe you can add all the rules to your Gherkin scenario. And so it does. But you see here it's saying when the postal code is validated, then the first 2 digits must be between 1 and 95, and then the third digit between 0 and 9, blah, 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 blah. So the thing is that here I see rules. I don't see example anymore. But Gherkin scenarios, we know that they should be examples. So I'm asking the model, maybe right, but maybe you can do examples. And it's telling me that I'm right. Yeah, that's cool. So I'm gonna write examples here. And that's what it does actually. And it's not so bad, because it gave me one example which is working, then one example 1, 2, 3, 4, which is not valid because only 4 characters. Then this 99.9, which is out of range. Then another one out of range because of the third digit, and then when the digits are out of range. And I'm not sure about this postal code, because for me this does exist. But anyway, I continue and I say, well, you didn't give me an example with letters, but you told that the rules are about digits, so let's add this rule. And it does add a rule here with 7500A. So I am happy about this. What about 6 digits? So I'm completing my scenarios using ChatGPT, and so now I have a full list of scenarios. I'm quite happy. I'm trying to trick the model, saying, by the way, what about Monaco? Because some people tend to think that Monaco is France. But ChatGPT is smart and telling me, no, it's not France, and it has a different rules for postal code, and it proposes me to add them to the Gherkin scenarios, and we are good. Then the next step is to try to actually implement these scenarios into my JavaScript functions. So I'm asking the model, well, I would like to implement this in Node.js. Can you do it? And it actually does provide some JS code, except that it's coding everything. It's coding both the scenarios and the function. But I'm telling it, well, I know that you should use Cucumber for this. So that's what I'm telling the model, and the model answers me, yeah, right. I'm gonna write you Cucumber in Node.js, except that instead of writing Node.js code, it reverts back to the scenarios I had before. I have all my example, including Monaco, back to Gherkin, which is not what I want. I'm going to tell, okay, you should use the module Cucumber for Node.js and import the given when then classes that will help me to implement the rules into my step runner. And so it does, actually quite good. Now I have my given when then, I have the different kind of scenarios. So given that I have a postal code, when I try to validate, and then I have the then for valid. Okay, cool, but I want all the scenarios, including the invalid one. So I'm just saying, okay, can you add all the scenarios in JS code? And that's what it does. And actually it's trying to differentiate France from Monaco using the length, which is not maybe the smarter thing to do. And anyway, we will simplify a bit in our code because I wanted only French. But it does implement the valid and the invalid. And actually it also implements a valid function for France and a valid function for Monaco. So that's quite good, except that when I'm trying this in my code, and you will see it fails if I don't import the right Cucumber library. So I do import now the Cucumber library. I told it to fix, and it does. So it's not so bad. I have my code now with the right library. Also, I really prefer those arrow functions. And so I'm asking ChatGPT, can you just build ES6 style? And it does. So let's copy the code and import it. Right, now let's put this is valid French postal code at the right place. I'm going just to take the return function and remove it from here. And I'm gonna put it in my code here. Also, I want to simplify and just deal with French postal code. That's it. And finally, I'm gonna import my feature file. Again, I'm gonna clean all the Monaco use cases. All right, let's run it. Oh, it fails because I cannot use import. Okay, that's true. I'm not in a module, so I need to clean a bit my code here. Instead, I will import them as constant. Okay, almost everything is fine except this 99.9. Let's check. In my feature file, I do have an issue here because it's stating starting with 99.0 and it's actually testing 99.9. So I guess we should ask the model to fix that bug, right? Okay, there's a bug in the scenario. Can you fix it? And actually, it's going to change my scenario here. I'm dealing with this. I will replace the scenario with this value. I'm gonna run, test, and everything is passing. By the way, I also noticed something wrong. Because what about Guadeloupe? Guadeloupe is actually over C. I mean, if I'm stopping at 95, I will miss this. So it should fix the bug. And what I'm saying is it actually fixes the bug in the function. Maybe not the best way, but I can still copy paste. And I'm asking him, maybe you can also generate an example for this. And so it does generate an example here about Guadeloupe. And I'm gonna add it to my scenario. I'm running the test and everything passes. Of course, the implementation here is quite bad. It's not the way I would implement, but it's working. I would not recommend it for production. And actually, what I wanted to test is to have the proper scenarios, which is actually here a kind of a success here. So to sum up, good news are that ChatGPT knew some rules about the French postcode. It was able to generate both features and the JS code. For this, I had to really challenge the model. I had to know about this. So the drawback are that first it generated a rule-based implementation, and I had actually to tell I need Gherkin in this about example and not rules. Also, at first, it generated a JS implementation of the Gherkin runner without using Cucumber. And if I didn't know about Cucumber, it would be a terrible idea to have this in my code. Also, the steps are not using the last version of the Cucumber. I had to fix this. Also, some tests were still failing when I was running this. And the code was biased because it forgot about Guadeloupe. All in all, what we recommend here is to use ChatGPT to accelerate, but keep in mind that you need the expert, and that's why I guess GitHub Copilot, they are not the main pilot, you are the main pilot, and that's something that you need to take into account. Thank you for watching.